Imagine trusting someone to help you, only to be lured into a deadly trap. Jennifer Gail Paxton, a 36-year-old woman in Tennessee, was brutally tortured, murdered, and hidden in a freezer for months by the very people who offered her shelter. What started as a chance to rebuild her life turned into a house of horrors. Jennifer Gail Paxton, born and raised in Tennessee, had faced many personal challenges in her life. At 36 years old, she was struggling with homelessness and addiction, but despite her hardships, Jennifer was known to have a big heart and a strong desire to turn her life around. She had dreams of getting back on her feet and reuniting with her family. By late 2019, Jennifer found herself in desperate need of a place to stay. Her vulnerability left her at the mercy of strangers, and that's when she crossed paths with Finnegan and his girlfriend, Rynetta Lowe. The couple lived in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and appeared to offer Jennifer a lifeline, shelter, safety, and stability. Jennifer, seeing an opportunity to rebuild her life, accepted their offer. But what she didn't realize was that this act of trust would soon become a nightmare. At first glance, Finnegan and Rynetta Lowe seemed like a couple willing to help someone in need. They appeared to be offering Jennifer a fresh start in their home, but behind this facade of generosity lay a much darker reality. Finnegan, a man with a history of violent behavior and criminal activity, had a disturbing streak that only worsened when he was around Lowe. From the moment Jennifer moved in, she became their prisoner. According to court documents and later testimony, Jennifer's life spiraled into a terrifying ordeal of captivity and abuse. Finnegan and Lowe had no intention of helping Jennifer. Instead, they subjected her to systematic physical and psychological torture. Jennifer, who had already faced so much hardship in her life, now found herself trapped in a living nightmare. Once Jennifer was under their control, Finnegan and Lowe began their reign of terror. Jennifer was not only treated as a prisoner but was also subjected to unimaginable cruelty. She was tied up, beaten, starved, and left in a weakened state for weeks. Finnegan, the primary aggressor, used ropes to restrain her, ensuring that she couldn't escape their home. But the abuse wasn't just physical, it was psychological too. Jennifer was tormented daily, made to feel powerless and hopeless. Finnegan and Lowe controlled her every move, and her pleas for help were met with more violence. The abuse was relentless, with Jennifer's health deteriorating due to starvation and beatings. Witnesses later testified that Jennifer's body showed clear signs of extreme malnutrition, indicating the level of neglect and torture she endured. By December 23, 2019, the situation had reached a breaking point. After enduring weeks of torture, Jennifer's body could take no more. That night, in a fit of rage, Finnegan brutally attacked her. He beat her severely, breaking several bones in her body, and finally strangled her to death. Rynetta Lowe, far from being an innocent bystander, played an active role in Jennifer's murder. She watched as Finnegan tortured and killed Jennifer, offering no help, no intervention, only complicity. After Jennifer was dead, the couple faced the grim task of what to do with her body. In a cold and calculated move, they decided to hide her remains. Rather than disposing of Jennifer's body, they made the chilling decision to stuff her into a freezer, where her remains would be stored for nearly 8 months. During this time, Finnegan and Lowe continued their lives as if nothing had happened, while Jennifer's body lay hidden in their home. Jennifer's disappearance didn't go unnoticed by her family. As weeks turned into months without any word from her, her family grew increasingly concerned. They knew that Jennifer had been struggling, but they never imagined the horrific fate that had befallen her. By January 2020, Jennifer's family reported her missing, and an investigation into her whereabouts began. In late January 2020, authorities finally tracked Jennifer's last known location to Finnegan and Lowe's home in Oak Ridge. With a search warrant in hand, police arrived at the house, but what they discovered inside was far worse than they had imagined. Inside a freezer in the couple's home, they found Jennifer Gail Paxton's body. She had been frozen for nearly 8 months. Her remains showed clear signs of torture, with broken bones, bruises, and other injuries, confirming the violence she had suffered in her final days. The sight of Jennifer's frozen body left even seasoned investigators stunned and horrified. With Jennifer's body found, authorities moved quickly to arrest Finnegan and Rynetta Lowe. Both were charged with first-degree murder, kidnapping, and abuse of a corpse. As the gruesome details of the case began to emerge, it became clear that this was not just a simple case of murder, it was a calculated and brutal crime. During interrogation, Lowe tried to shift the blame onto Finnegan, claiming that he had been the one responsible for Jennifer's death and that she had been too afraid to intervene. But the evidence told a different story. It became clear that Lowe had not only witnessed the abuse, but had actively participated in it, making her equally responsible for Jennifer's death. Finnegan, on the other hand, showed no remorse. His violent history, combined with his lack of regret during questioning, painted a picture of a cold-blooded killer. Investigators quickly pieced together the timeline of events, leading to both Finnegan and Lowe being charged with the horrific crime. The trial for the murder of Jennifer Gail Paxton began in 2021, and the courtroom was packed with people eager to see justice served. The prosecution presented a damning case, laying out the weeks of abuse Jennifer had endured and the horrific circumstances of her death. They described in chilling detail how Jennifer had been tortured, starved, and ultimately killed by Finnegan, with Lowe standing by and assisting in the cover-up. The defense attempted to portray Lowe as a victim of Finnegan's control, arguing that she had been manipulated into participating in the crime. But the jury wasn't swayed by this argument. The evidence was overwhelming, and the physical injuries found on Jennifer's body told the story of prolonged abuse at the hands of both Finnegan and Lowe. In the end, the jury found both Sean Finnegan and Rynetta Lowe guilty of first-degree murder, kidnapping, and abuse of a corpse. They were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. However, due to the particularly heinous nature of the crime, Sean Finnegan's sentence went further. He was sentenced to death by lethal injection.
Upon the verdict, the jury find you, Sean Finnegan, to be guilty of murder in the first degree as charged in the indictment. Upon further verdict of fixing the punishment of death, it is therefore ordered that you shall be put to death by lethal injection in the mode prescribed by Tennessee law pursuant to the provisions of Tennessee Code annotated 40-23-114. You'll be transferred to the custody of the warden at the state penitentiary in Nashville, Tennessee, pending appellate review. Thank you. Have a seat, sir.
This sentence reflected the extreme cruelty and violence he had inflicted on Jennifer. Jennifer's murder left a deep scar on the community of Oak Ridge. The brutality of her death and the revelation that her body had been stored in a freezer for 8 months shook the town to its core. People who had known Finnegan and Lowe as a troubled couple were horrified to learn of the true extent of their cruelty. Vigils were held in Jennifer's memory, and her family became vocal advocates for raising awareness about the dangers that vulnerable individuals face. They spoke out about the need for greater protections for those who are homeless or struggling with addiction, hoping to prevent future tragedies like Jennifer's. As the case was solved and justice was served, many were left grappling with one haunting question: how could a simple act of trust turn into a nightmare of such horrific betrayal? Jennifer Gail Paxton sought refuge, yet found herself in the hands of monsters. It makes you wonder, how well do we really know the people we trust? Could there be darkness lurking behind those who claim to offer help?